Peace and respect to you all. Welcome to Demolished Doctrine, the beginning of the end of religion. And yes, I was late. In fact, very late. And it's not these two guys' fault at all in any way, in fact. And hello to the side chat. And
Hey.
I appreciate you guys coming by. Let's see who we got. We got we got you two guys and 420 Atheist. Woot woot, if he is still here, and I cannot be sure. All right, so you guys know what's going on, and I don't, which is the way I like it, actually. So, hello, also Cryptomaria. Peace and respect to you, Sister Crypta.
Yeah.
So Mac, from what I understand, I'm supposed to ask you to take the floor. The floor is yours.
All right. So I don't know if you guys realize, but the Wednesday show is now happened 2 weeks in a row on Sunday. And while we were arranging it for this week with our choppy, well, we're really with my choppy schedule, and these two guys have a very flexible schedule, it seems, compared to me. And I'm so appreciative of that. Steve wrote in one of our email exchanges in a typically whimsical way that Jesus wouldn't mind us meeting on the Sunday because that's not the real Sabbath after all. So, and then I tried to, I always try to jab back. And so I said something about how, there's a verse about if two or more of us gather in his name, he will be here with us. So, he's going to be here, I was trying to imply he'll be here no matter which day we meet on. And so
that would be the case, yeah.
Richard,
I'm counting on Jesus to bring the snacks.
Yeah, he should have a lot of them, right?
People are going to want
we know
snacks.
from the story of the loaves and the fishes that it was Jesus who invented the filet-o-fish sandwich.
Which is a satisfying but also disappointing sandwich at the same time.
I've never even
yet met
had
the
one.
tartars, so back then,
Right.
tartar sauce was not part of the sandwich. Kind of dry.
Oh, doesn't tartar sauce have mayo in it? Because it would be hard to keep that
Not
fresh.
a desert thing, yeah.
It would be food poisoning for sure.
You have to make it eat it right away in that environment. That's true.
Yeah, I don't doubt
So
it.
here's the deal. We've got this idea of a Sabbath, which Richard actually has, most of what Richard talks about, I believe, is the Sabbath. He claims that most of the Bible and most of Holy Scripture across tradition points to the Sabbath, and so it's kind of a central concept to talk about. And I thought that'd be a cool kind of a direction to go in tonight. So I just, I typed Sabbath into the Letter Bible and into Wikipedia, and I could read some quotes or whatever. We could go a lot of directions with this, though. So.
Yeah, let me kind of give a rundown on why I believe what I believe about the Sabbath.
Okay, great.
So here's something I tongue-in-cheek call my Sabbath syllogism, because that rhymes. Peace and respect to Freak and Commander 401. Hope you enjoy the show. Okay, so here's the Sabbath syllogism. According to the Bible and in internal critique and internal critique alone, I'm not doing something else. God rests the Sabbath. Okay, so here's my critique of that. If God rests the Sabbath, and if resting negates working, and if man is part of God's creation, and if he rests on the Sabbath from all of his creation, and yes, I can show all of that very easily in the text. Very easily in the text. And if God has never taken a break from working with man, I can show that in the text. Then God is not yet resting his Sabbath from this creation. However, it does say past tense. Oh, that was the conclusion. However, it does say past tense that God did rest from his creation, but can't be from this one. How do you like them apples?
But can't what?
I mentioned apples, and I know that you're a zebra, and that was distracting. Could you say what part you missed?
Oh, yes. You said so God rested on the Sabbath after the creation of the
Right.
earth. And then
And
you said, but he didn't rest on the second one? Is that what you said?
we're still in process.
Hmm.
And since it is part of the prophecy that mankind on this earth be vivified or perfected or quickened, whatever English word you like for that,
Hmm.
then it's obvious there's more to do with us. And there's never been a time that God wasn't working with us. So then you can't say he's both working and resting unless you're like saying something like classical logic doesn't matter.
I suppose the Holy Spirit could be working one Sunday, and God rests on alternate Sundays or something like that.
So they're teaming it. Yeah, sure.
That's what I'm
Uh,
thinking. Yeah.
well, the only issue with that is the reason that the Holy Spirit never shows any kind of independent thought is
Hmm.
because it can only represent the Father. And by the way, only to the Son.
Yeah, the quote for the Holy Spirit is, "I proceed from the Father, but am
Right.
sent by the Son."
Sent by?
That's how I recall it. I may be wrong.
No, that line could be in there. Let me see that. Okay, I'm going to have a problem with some of the Englishy words.
Not to worry.
Um, but there's two different ways I could read that. Both of them work just fine. You could say something like Jesus uses it too, and that works,
Mm,
which is essentially what I'm saying. That anyone else could be deprived of the Holy Spirit their entire life, but it's necessity for Jesus's education being born like anyone else is, and that is what's the best way to put that? Um, not having yet evidence. You're born not yet having evidence. Okay,
mm.
so you don't hold a position, which is not a negation or a confirmation of any position. It's just neutral. So we're obviously born neutral on every topic. We don't know anything yet. So he needs educated, and the promises, like in the promises to the churches of Asia, that just build bigger and bigger. Eventually, whoever the intended reader is who overcomes is promised to have heaven named after him. Well, that can't be 144,000 or more people. That doesn't make sense. But it would make sense for a singular individual, and which is what it's saying. It uses definite article in those
Mm.
promises, saying singular male, every single promise. So bearing all that in mind, the Sabbath cannot have happened for God concerning this earth. Cannot have happened. Okay. I would challenge anyone to find Tuesday or Thursday in the Bible. It's simply not there. The only day mentioned ever is the Sabbath. That's because
Mm.
every event that they're talking about happens on the Sabbath. Every single one. Now, we have
Ooh, that's a good one.
one day of the, yeah, right. Think about the implications of that.
Well,
It has a lot of
Passover is on the Sabbath too, isn't
everything
it?
the Bible is talking about is the Sabbath. What's that? What's
Mm.
that? Z?
Well, Passover is on the Sabbath too, isn't it?
Sure, heaven passes over, and people put the blood of Christ, the Lamb, on their doorposts, top
Mm,
center, bottom center, left and right at about shoulder height, which makes the sign of the cross.
mm,
And the hyssop, or wheat, or corn, usually translated hyssop, is a grain that you can eat as a human being, and that's a direct reference to the grim reaper reaping the earth with his sharp sickle, taking out that which is not weeds.
mm.
So you take an edible grain and you apply the blood of the lamb that has no blemish to your doorpost in a certain order. i.e., accept Christ when you meet him. Making yourself produce, making yourself valuable, not trash, not chaff, not weeds. So, keeping all that in your mind, then what we have is the only day that is not the Sabbath mentioned in the Bible is the first 5 days of creation before we are here. That's
Hey,
it.
Spooky.
Peace and respect, Spooky.
Spooky. Hey, man. There's this is a little bit of nonsense, but the quote from Matthew 20 it goes something depending on which version you're reading. When 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I will be in the midst of them.
Yes.
But so Jesus is imagining small congregations and that the church will never take off. So he specifically says he won't be there if, say, 10 people are gathered in his name. It has to be 2 or 3.
From what I can understand in the text, there are larger crowds in certain situations that gather and are mentioned, much more than 3.
Yes, but Jesus won't necessarily be there.
Right.
You can gather, but he
if I
won't
could
be in
finish
there.
the thought, though.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. So, and in that situation, it recalls that tongues happens, and that there's more than 4 of them that are speaking in tongues simultaneously to different person groups, and they think those men are drunk. Okay?
Yeah, that was an instant when the Holy Spirit arrived and visited upon them and gave them the gift of tongues.
Right.
So still not Jesus. But I'm being pedantic. I'm being a little pedantic.
No, it's okay. I like these mental challenges. I do. I mean, this is what I live for. As I said, the reason that the Holy Spirit never has its own personality, peace and respect, Dwayne Burke, is because it is only a communication device. It is the act of prayer. So does it come from God and from Christ? Yeah, absolutely. It's how they talk to each other. Okay. I should correct myself, not say God, but the Father. Because if you're going to have communication, it has to be with a conscious being. It can't be with some generalized God. It can't be you don't have communication with a set of ideals. A set of ideals can portray ideas to you through written word, or someone speaks about those ideals. But in order to have that, you still have to have some intelligence, write it down or talk about it. Okay. So the Holy Ghost or Holy Spirit being communication, that part of the brain that does that thing that we intrinsically experience and often dismiss in the act of accidental and purposeful prayer. But if 3 meet in his name, and his name would be in that case Yahweh, and the way the Christian would probably think about it is either Jesus or the Father or both, then that presence is there. But that's the same thing as saying 3 people talking come together and to discuss the Bill of Rights. And that's what they're talking about. The spirit of the Bill of Rights is amongst them. Now, whether or not they experience prayer and when those 3 gather, kind of hard to say. If they come up with information they could not have gleaned otherwise, and that information comports with reality, then I would say they did pray. Anything short of that, I'm not going to say they prayed. I'm going to say they had a personal experience of some kind. Don't know what it was.
Now, I suppose if Jesus says if 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, that the Holy Spirit could attend as well, but that Jesus would be in their midst.
Here's the problem. You're being very Trinitarian about who is saying it.
Yes. Well, it's so deeply ingrained in me.
I know.
Even though I'm an atheist zebra,
Sure.
I have to sort of raise it.
It takes more than being a zebra and more than being an atheist to not have heard these things. Yes.
Yes.
Right. I have to agree with you. It's thoroughly soaked.
Was Jesus born on the Sabbath, I wonder? Is there a way
No,
to know
according to the text, Jesus was not necessarily born on the Sabbath.
Okay.
He was born on the 7th of his appropriate month, in the sign of the tribe of Reuben. He's born into the tribe of Reuben.
Hmm.
So he's born on the 7th in Reuben.
All right.
So zebra,
Reuben being an astronomical sign. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
think, sorry, I would like to humbly submit the idea that, or just point out the idea that when this was said about when 2 or 3 gather in my name,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus was still among the living. He was among his disciples, or he will be, if I correct for the tenses that Richard's reading frame allows for. He will be and he was among his disciples when he spoke that. So he wasn't talking
Yes.
about now. He wasn't talking about like people in prayer or gathering for worship or something like that. He was saying like, you guys, who I am is there whether I'm there or not. Like if you guys are talking about me, if you guys are like discussing what I'm about, then I'm there with you. And so, I guess where it lands in terms of Richard's framework is that's sort of the meta that Jesus was or is, that Jesus will be, is this higher set of concepts of principles, and so Jesus says this to his disciples in the context of, well, where is it? I just had it open. I think I closed the tab.
Oh no!
Okay, here we go.
Thanks.
If you do a Bible search of just the words 2 or 3, let your mind go of some of it, the rigidity, and look only for continuous context in the following. And they returned to Joshua. That word there means Jesus, by the way, and said unto him, let all the people go up, but let about 2,000 or 3,000 men go up and smite Ai. Make not all the people to labor thither, for they are but few, for they few. And he lifted up his face to the window and said, who on my side? Who? And there looked out to him 2 or 3 eunuchs. Yet gleaning grapes shall be left in, as the shaking of an olive tree, 2 or 3 berries in the top of the uppermost bough, 4 or 5 in the outmost fruitful branches thereof, saith the Lord God of Israel. So 2 or 3 cities wandered unto one city to drink water, but they were not satisfied, yet having ye not returned unto me, say the Lord. But if he will not hear, take with thee 2 or more, that in the mouth 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. Yeah, well, think about that one. For where 2 or 3 gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them. And as Mac was saying, that would be during end times, with heaven literally in the sky above. And there were set, there 6 water pots of stone, after the manner of the purifying of the Jews, containing 2 or 3 firkins apiece.
Firkins.
It's a measurement of liquid, obviously. Let the prophets speak 2 or 3, and let the other judge. So that's talking about tongues. This the third I am coming to you. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established. Against an elder receive not an accusation, but before 2 or 3 witnesses. He that despises Moses' law died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. At the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall he that is worthy of death be put to death. The mouth of one witness he shall not be put to death. One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity or for any sin, in any sin that he sinneth. At the mouth of two witnesses or the mouth of three witnesses shall the matter be established. If any man speak in a tongue, there's so many hyphenated words, by two or three most, by two or at the most three, and by course, and let one interrupt. So don't let Babylon even speaking in tongues, but do interpretation on a regular basis.
Right.
That's talking about tongues specifically.
Well, that way the crowd doesn't get lost in what's being said in the testimony.
Right.
It makes perfect sense to me that if for judgment, everyone is gathered to one area of the world, and that I believe the rock that it will be left behind, the great millstone, with jagged edges and a hole of water in the middle, Yellowstone National Park. And yes, that's what volcanoes normally do. And left to cool for about 3.5 years, that being the first sign, should have a nice puddle of water in the middle. And just a big, what kind of rock is that? Mostly
basalt
rock. A big black rock.
I do what I can.
That was good. Thank you. I had the B, but the rest of it escaped me, and thank you for the reminder.
I do what I can.
So then you would have those who rejected heaven, because no one's being forced beyond their will. They're on the earth in that area near the eruption of Yellowstone, which the pyroclastic pillar, when it collapses, should go out to 600 or 800 miles, which explains why everyone's covered in soot or ashes and sackcloth or tattered clothes. So you got bad clothes and everyone's filthy with ash. Well, that makes sense if you were brought to the middle of an ash bed from a volcanic eruption and you couldn't get out of it. It would also make sense why you are starving to death, why you counted on the wells of your grandfathers, why you'd have to go to those kinds of water sources, why you would collect in small towns, why no one asks the question, where is heaven, or where are these angels you speak of? Prove to me those things exist. All of that would make perfect sense in the 3.5 years after the judgment. So then you'd have, I don't know, Chinese and Jewish and Russian people all in communities trying to work and survive together. And Jesus goes there, or one of the apostles goes to that little town and tries to testify them. Well, what makes you think Jesus just learned every language on the planet in a short life? When the hell did he have time for that? So the answer to that is, when you're sit before the judge, worry not for the words that we will say, I will give them to you. There's the answer to that. This is the part where you guys give your thoughts.
Well, as usual, I am overwhelmed. Over to you, Mac.
I'm trying to figure out a way to loop it back to the idea of the Sabbath, which, of course, it all boils down to. So that day of rest is in this narrative structure, in this reading frame, is the great day. It's the great day when everything is over. When
it would
right?
Judgment Day itself be on the Sabbath? Sorry, I talked over you.
Yes, it totally is, because the Sabbath is a 7-year-long period.
Oh.
That's the beginning of the Sabbath, or the morning of the Sabbath, the dawning of the Sabbath is the 7 years of end times. Of course, when we're talking, and I don't know how long the Bible means by millennia, or the word eternal or eonian, and you could read it any of those ways, that we are in heaven at post-ascension. But however long that means, and it could mean longer than 1,000 years, it's kind of hard to tell. It means probably an age, or maybe the all of your existence, something
Right.
like that, whatever amount of time that might be.
Not specified. It's a
So
period
then
of
if
time.
you take, it's some long period of time. It's hard to tell. But if I said, I'm comparing 7 years to 1,000 years,
Mhm.
what is that's literally 0.0007, right?
Mhm.
So that's, I mean, a smidgen, dismissible amount of time,
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah, we have 7 coming up so often, and
Mhm.
forgiving people 7 times 70, 7 times 7 times, 7 times 77 times. And I
Sure.
remember hearing once that 7 times 77 was a euphemism for forever, because it was such a large number
Right.
that uh, if you're a peasant somewhere, you're
Sure.
not going to use a number that large.
Right.
Huh.
Right. It's
Well,
like a number that you can't imagine.
Mm-hmm.
what's the deal with the prohibition on work or productive activity?
Oh, that's
During
quite
this.
simple. And I think Christopher Hitchens made a really good point of this in more than one of his debates. He said Jesus was immoral, and he'd be right.
Hmm.
Because Jesus said, leave your mother, leave your father, and they're probably aged if you're an adult. And they probably can't take very good care of themselves, and it might kill them.
Hmm.
And leave your sister, leave your brother. Leave your belongings, think not of the future. Leave your children, leave your wife.
Right.
Mm.
Those are some really immoral ideas, unless heaven's in the sky and you have a chance to ascend. And so does everyone else. In which case, if they remain on the planet, they have chosen to remain on the planet. So, like when the woman says, bless me, Rabbi, and he says, you're a dog, and she says, well, even the dogs deserve scraps. You have to understand that that's near the end of the ministry, and she's already seen 6 years of end times. And you might say he's an asshole. Well, I don't know. Let's take a look at that situation real hard. How long has she been refusing heaven? And shouldn't
She
he put her through a
was
severe test to make sure she's serious now?
also, in context, I seem to remember that she might have been a Samaritan, and this is where Jesus said, I have come only to save the lost sheep of Israel.
Right.
And
What does Samaritan mean?
well, sadly, there was a lot of prejudice against them because they were Jews who had produced offspring outside of other Jews, as I recall.
Anyone know how to spell Samaritan? I'm horrible at spelling.
SAMAR
Got that?
ITAN, I think.
Try it that way.
And
bonus. You got it. Good job.
yay.
Okay. Usually in these specialty words, you don't have to look up more than one because they're all going to be the same.
Sure.
And it appears only in the Greek.
Excuse me.
But is of Hebrew origin.
Mm.
Going all the way back to the root word. Okay. And it's going to build on a root word, just like our language does.
Mm.
To hedge about, as with thorns. To guard, generally to protect. To be ward, to be circumspect, to take heed. Okay. So that's the most narrow definition. One extension of that word is shemaron, which means the watch station. Okay. And then from there, it becomes guardianship, right? That idea. And
What?
eventually the town Samaria, or the area of Samaria. A Samaritan means a guard of a protected area. There you go. That's what a Samaritan is.
I know that there was terrible tension between, say, the Jews of Jerusalem and the Samaritans.
Well, yes, there should be. Peace and respect, purple rhymes with orange, also Titan Uranus. And no, I'm never going to say that the way you want me to. Okay, so let's look at what the walled cities are in the second half of end times. The walled cities are cities of refuge against the avenger of wrongful death, and this is the beginning of the righteousness of God. That it's like saying this thing can't be defeated. You have no chance against it. If you kill someone accidentally or purposefully, run to this walled city because this thing is already on its way to eat you, and that's Leviathan. A snake-like animal that is so big and its scales so hard that your spears and rocks can't pierce it. And that would probably be something more along the lines of small arms ammunition. Will not hurt this thing. It'll laugh at you. It thinks of arrows and spears as stubble. And it's so heavy and big that it presses rocks into the ground and leaves a shiny place wherever it goes. Like if you cross a path of where Leviathan has been, you'll easily recognize that Leviathan has been there. And you better be careful not to accidentally or purposefully kill people, because its job is now to hunt you down. And it can move a lot faster than you, and it doesn't need much rest. And it might need no rest. So that's to keep people from killing each other during this, what will be total anarchy on the planet. Except for the building of a new government, i.e. the beast of Satan, and the one trying to destroy all government and convince people to go to heaven, i.e. the Christ. So then in this second half of end times, you have, oh my gosh, what did you say, Steve? I need to come back. It was necessary, but too far away.
I was talking about the Samaritans. And
okay, so the guarded cities, which is what the word Samaritan is a guard at a separate city, a separated city that has some kind of a wall around it. I take that to be one of these guarded cities, a city of refuge, which it's told to be built about every 10 cities that there's a city of refuge, and for good reason. Of course, that means that everyone will be in fairly close proximity to each other. And there's only two groups. There's people who ascended to heaven and non-believers. Well, that's obvious, right? So in the second half, everyone you have which is why Jesus only runs into non-believers. He never runs into somebody who goes, oh, I get it, and I believe in the right God. And he goes, all right, you're cool. Check you out later. That story is nowhere in the text because it can't be.
There's, if anyone out there is curious, there's a lot on the Samaritans on the wiki page if you're curious. And it's interesting stuff.
So usually it doesn't break down in the text, except for in just a few stories, other than to say goyim, which means cattle. Like a herd animal, like a stupid herd animal.
That's what they think of non-Jews, right?
Right. In fact, every time in the English you read the word nation, it should read goyim. You should be insulted when you read the word nation. It's meant to insult you if you're a non-believer reading it. So you only have Jew and Gentile. That's all you have. And the word Gentile there is actually goy. And the word nation is actually goyim. A group of goy. So that's the only distinction made. You either believe, in which case you went up in the first half and you're not going to be part of this story, or you're a non-believer and, well, you're going to have to deal with all this stuff. I once did a comic book, Interesting Things That Non-Believers Will See.
Oh, wow.
So you have like dot to dots of the locust.
Yeah.
Color in the picture of Behemoth.
Nice.
Stuff like that.
There's a lovely thing in the last days where locusts appear that have human faces and the
Yes.
teeth of lions.
Yes.
And they're specifically there to bite people but not kill them.
Now this rendering I'm about to show you is the artist, who's a friend of mine, took a bit of liberty with it.
Was it David? Is it the same artist?
No. David is a writing artist. This friend of mine is a drawing artist.
I see.
And let me get myself out of the way and start it sideways.
There we have it.
Wait a minute. Let me adjust the.
I remember this image.
Let me adjust the filter so that it's not all fuzzy with me out of the camera.
Oh, there we are. And is it supposed to have this the sting of a scorpion as well, right?
Yes.
Maybe we can't see it.
Well, you can see it if you were on a big screen like a regular computer. You're evidently on a phone, yes? Maybe
no, I'm on my laptop.
And you can't see the stinger?
I do see it now.
Oh, okay. So this thing is described as having a crown on its head. I think that's a prying and piercing device for things that might be in its way. That it's like a scorpion. That would mean it has 8 appendages. And the 2 front appendages are very claw-like. It has a sting in its tail. It has the hair of a woman and the jaw and teeth of a lion, and it flies. In my mind, this thing is about, if it was stretched full length, as long as it could be, probably about 10 or 11 inches long is the way that it comes in my mind from reading the text. So about the size of a good-sized rat.
Okay. Well, if anyone is interested, one of my favorite movies is a movie called Rapture Palooza. There's a hyphen between Rapture and Palooza.
Rapture Palooza. Okay.
Yes, and it stars Anna Kendrick and Craig Robinson, and it's a fantastic film.
It's really fun.
Yeah, and it has these locusts in it.
Like this?
No, they don't look like this. Think of a locust that's start with your basic locust and give it a sort of weird human face, and exnay the scorpion's tail.
Okay. Well, that's inaccurate to the text, and the text finishes out the description by saying that when these things fly, it sounds like horses dressed with metal armor for battle.
Oh, that sounds terrifying.
Well, it's talking about the metallic quality of it, that these things are metal. So you guys can't really see it, but those are circuits in its wings. And you can definitely make out the armor-like metal body of the thing in the drawing, I think, fairly well.
Yeah, it looks like plate armor.
What's that?
Plate armor, where you have series of metal plates.
Yes. And that part was part of my request. How fancy the claws are, not part of my request. Those are pretty cool looking claws. They look like some kind of fancy metal, but they could be fancy metal. I don't know. But the idea is the thing is not actually, it's moving and it's not alive, and it'll sting everyone still on the planet. Oh, yeah. Crypta says, makes me think of the Matrix, that worm thing that they put inside Neo in the Matrix.
Right.
Put it in his belly button. Yeah. Spooky. Yeah, this would be one of the things that people who can't accept heaven get to experience. Not coincidentally, the sting tortures a person for 5 months. 5 months, the amount of time of the war in the heavens, when Satan and his kind are cast out by Michael and his crew. I think that not coincidental. That it's to keep people busy while heaven had arrived and is away temporarily for 5 months to have that big, essentially Star Wars-like battle. And from what I can tell, and this part's a little bit opinion, but I want to be honest and tell you when I'm giving an opinion. I think it's going to be in the amongst the asteroid belts between Mars and Jupiter. I think that's where it's going to be located, which means that you'll be able to see it. Little bright flashes in the sky at night. You should be able to see that with your naked eye if you're still on the planet, if you didn't take Ascension. By the way, I recommend Ascension. I'm just saying. Just by the way, I want to throw that in there too.
Right.
What if this has already happened and we're the descendants of the people who got left behind?
Well, it did happen. We are the descendants. Those who were left behind were destroyed, but that was another Earth. So I'll give you 80% there.
Okay. Well, I didn't have anything to substantiate that claim. I was just wondering, hey.
The third, except when the third temple goes up, DeFreak. DeFreak, I would really look into those words that you're quoting and see whether or not the temple is temporary or permanent. Because that would be the key word right there, temple. Because if it means a temple as in a tent that is leaning like rays of the sun, then that could mean something on this planet, a temporary temple. But if it means permanent temple, it can't mean something on this planet because nothing here is permanent in the view of the Bible. Just a thought. Oh, and by the way, man can build a temple, which means we could force the hand of God by building a temple, and we decide when heaven arrives, which means the Bible is wrong, and it's not. It is up to us, and greater than us would be Jesus. It could be up to Jesus, and greater than Jesus is the angels, at least temporarily, while he's doing his mission, in which case it could be up to the angels. But no, it says it's not up to anybody except the Father, unless you want to call Jews the Father, in which case you're a huge heretic, worse than me. That's
well,
right.
That's a beautiful image anyway. Terrifying.
We do not get to decide. Only the Father gets to decide when Jesus will be here. That's correct.
Gotta agree with that.
Has nothing to do with any human building any temple anywhere. Truly. The raising of the third temple, yes, it has everything to do with that. But look into those words and find out what it really means. Never mind what people tell you it means. Look at the actual words.
And does the third temple have to be located where the second temple was? I mean, could they build it in another city?
Could be anywhere.
Well, the third temple is going to be the looming mountain, i.e. heaven in the sky. That's the third temple. So it's not anything we do at all. It's nothing we can recreate if we wanted to. We don't have the technology. We don't have the power.
Anti-gravity. We need the anti-gravity units.
It's the inertial dampers that are the tricky ones.
Yes. I like it.
Got to be able to, keep people from splattering against the back of the spaceship when you get to light speed.
Yeah, although if you were able to maintain 1G acceleration, you might get far along the way to light speed without having to have exotic materials or I don't know how. It would depend also on how much weight you were trying to accelerate as well.
To answer to Titan Uranus, yes, Jill is welcome here. In fact, I don't block people unless they just become an absolute hideous troll saying nothing that matters ever. So let's put a standard on that. Yeah, you're out of here, buddy. If someone comes in and says 5 useless things in a row that has nothing to do with the conversation, feel free to boot them. But unless they do like 5 trolls in a row, let's give them a chance to try to be on topic in the conversation, at least with side chat. All right, guys. What else do we got?
Well, that's a good question.
Or what logical fallacies do you find in my description here? Either one of those would be great.
Logical fallacies. I don't find your reasoning to be fallacious. I lack the skills to prove your reasoning. It could be right.
Okay, so here's what we have on that. When we're talking about future events that have not happened, we can only speak about their plausibility. Is it logically self-defeating to say something like human beings exist? Human beings exist not on this earth. Human beings exist not on this earth, able to come to this earth, having greater technology than we presently have, willing to share it with us. These are the same that transformed this planet into what it is through terraforming. They're inviting us to join their utopian society. Now, if there's something self-defeating in that, I would hear it.
Oh, I don't think it's self-defeating. I just think it is. How do I get to believing that this is true? It might be true.
Well, like I said, of future events, you can only speak of plausibility. I can't show that it's true. It hasn't happened. It's not true yet. Things that haven't happened aren't already true. Now, when Christians start saying this prophecy was fulfilled and it wasn't, and this other one was fulfilled and it wasn't, they're logically fallacious because it just hasn't happened. Like the whole argument on Tyre and the city island of Tyre and Dr. Joshua Bowen's Tyre talking about it. It just didn't happen by anyone's hand.
But it could be conquered someday.
Sure. If you took the oceans off of the planet and everything melted, would it be smooth as a stone where the island city of Tyre is now? Yeah.
So.
There'll be nothing left. It'll all be cast out into the sea and it'll all be taken away. Yeah. Absolutely. That's like not even a challenge. But it's actually underplaying what's going to happen. It's like breaking it down into the personal first-person experience of someone who were standing there watching as the earth got destroyed.
He didn't mean assassinations. He meant the nations. So it should read, Richard, I'm serious. The imagery of the book of Revelations with the locusts, with the heads like humans, and Isaiah 40, where the Lord looks on the circle of the earth, nations are like grasshoppers.
Yes.
Are these two, do you think these two things are related?
Do I think these two things are related? Well, yeah, obviously. Oh, I mean, put yourself in the perspective of an angel looking down upon the earth. Put yourself in their perspective. Put it in the writer's perspective, where the last Jesus was saying this is the way it's got to go. Read the book of Revelation. It's obviously Jesus speaking. There's no way to disguise that. One like unto the Son of Man, with hair like white as wool, and his face shone like the sun in its strength. He had a sharp two-edged sword, which is the truth, coming out of his mouth, and he was gilded about the paps with a golden girdle.
Right.
He's a warrior. It's Jesus. We all know it's Jesus. It can't be somebody else. And then Jesus speaks these things. And John takes the place in the play and writes down what he's a placeholder, because he's not the object. He's not the subjective person that it's to be read by. That's not who he is. But he takes the readers, the intended readers' place, and as a I don't know, a quarter for where your golf ball was, something like that. So he stands in that place and he writes what Jesus says to him. And by the way, the book of Revelation of Jesus Christ is the book of the revelation of Jesus Christ. Think about those words. Try to free your mind and take that every way you can and see that it's true. Like, that will reveal Jesus Christ. It will. Like, no crap. Anyway. Yeah, I think they're very, very related with heaven in the sky. And from that perspective, and talking about this walled city, this separated city, well, separated by what perspective? By the perspective of those in heaven. This earth is a walled city in some of the stories. It's referring to the whole earth. In fact, the words Bethlehem, Galilee, Nazareth, is like going through the gates of the zodiac. You'll find Virgo, and by the way, that's where David is from, quote unquote. He's from Virgo, Bethlehem. That's where Jesus is born at. Bethlehem is a reference to Virgo, which is much older than Judaism, the constellation Virgo. The house of bread, a reference to a constellation. And you have this city of rotating gates. And when you go through the rotations, you come to Virgo, and there is the woman provider, the female with the sheaves of wheat, i.e. the earth.
Wow.
Well, yeah, of course. And then the Jesus, Christ, the Bethlehemite, he will be called the Nazarene. That all makes perfect sense. His whole job title and where he's from is he acts as a valve to let through the good things through the sheep gate. You should know all those references. And that's talking about their ascension, the ascension of the sheep from the rotating walled city. Yeah, all that. Certainly the ideas are all there. Of course, in reality, I made the stars also, or I created the stars also, is I repurposed the clumps of stars. If you look in the actual words, the English translation in the King James is just poor. I repurposed the clumps of stars is the right way that should have been written in English. But repurpose, to reform or repurpose an existent thing. He pointed out the constellations. And if I said to you, well, what's probably the oldest religion on the planet? It's star worship. The stars as gods, i.e. astrology. So it goes all the way back. Or at least the Bible's claiming they taught us this all the way back. And to go on an extreme tangent, consider Orion. Orion has a bow and arrow. So does the white horseman. He has a sword. So does the red horseman. He slays the bull. That is, he's born into the tribe of Reuben, the bull. If this isn't sounding familiar yet, I don't know what to tell you. The Bible is a derivative with slightly different definition from astrology. It was told from the beginning. The dogs are at his feet. Yeah, exactly. Orion is Jesus. Or Jesus is Orion, however you want to say that. Obviously, Orion is an older expression. What do you guys got on all that? I know I'm way out. Like, I'm not at my wave cuffs, but a lot of the things that I say like this are fairly new ideas to people, and they just don't have a response. And that's, take your time, go look at the words, look into it, and see if you can disagree or if you have to agree with me. And if you can disagree, I want to hear about it.
Can you disagree, Steve?
We'll give him a chance to go look up those words. But I promise you, where it comes out, I created the stars also.
Mm-hmm.
It would be better if you looked into the definitions of the word. I repurposed the clumps of stars or piles of stars, in addition to the other thing I just mentioned, which was reforming the earth.
I think Zebra might be sleeping.
Good for him if he is.
Yeah.
I'm glad he feels comfortable enough around us to sleep in our presence. That is a huge compliment.
Isn't that cool?
It is pretty cool. I feel the same way about him.
Yeah.
I'd lay my head on his knee and take a nap. No problem.
Absolutely.
I trust that guy. All right. So I'm not going to ask for those thoughts, but I will ask for yours, Mac. What do you think of all that? Or perhaps you would go and look those things up and see if you can find a different way to interpret it that fits standard Christianity better than what I'm saying.
No, no. I think whatever standard Christianity is pretty far behind us at this point. So,
yeah, I mean, I think it's horrible when people. Okay, let's start at the beginning of that thought instead of halfway through. I have a tendency to do that. Let me get that. Okay, we got that screen centered. Okay, good. If I say something like, I have heard of Jesus, and I go to a church and it says things that I don't agree with about Jesus, what do? I go to a different church. That's church shopping.
That's right.
That's what that is. Now, there's enough churches out there within Christianity, you will find one that agrees with your view, pretty much. And you'll get invested in that community, and you'll be going there for about 2.5, 3 years, and they're going to say something that disagrees with what you thought they would have said in that situation, and maybe you're going to bend to fit their view, and maybe you're going to go church shopping again. But ultimately, you will pick what you already believe. Obviously, like, who's going to go to a church and the church totally disagrees with what they say, and that person stays? Come on. But this is the same as choosing what the Bible says. Same thing.
I mean,
when a person goes church shopping, they just went and found people who agree with what they think it means.
It's true.
So what's that besides confirmation bias?
Right. I mean, I was going to point out that people definitely come to terms with beliefs that they aren't comfortable with, that make them uncomfortable, and make that part of their belief system. But they do agree with them, and they adhere to them, and they choose their church based on what they believe. But I think they also believe based on their church too. Like, there's kind of a positive feedback loop going on there. Like, what they grow up in is what they're looking for as well. I remember once I heard a conversation you hear these little snippets of conversations working in a restaurant. I heard this one conversation between two women, and one woman said to the other, what do you resonate with at this church that you have joined? And the other woman said, well, they believe in the Bible. And she said it with all of this indignation. And the first woman kind of sat back like, oh my, of course, I'm so sorry. And
Wow.
that really stuck with me. That was years ago, but that really stuck with me as like indicative of, both of those women probably believed in the Bible, whatever that meant to them, and so there's like this strange, like automatic bias that comes into it. And, of course, what she really meant is they agree with me about the Bible, not they teach the Bible or they believe in the Bible.
Right.
If you were not
So
seeing
it's really nothing more than just a confirmation bias. That's what it is.
It's absolutely that. It's absolutely that.
So there's kabon, meaning to heap up, as in a hill, right? And that's the root of, let me hit the back arrow, kokaub, which is a two-part word meaning burning things that are piled up. So there you go. Sense of blazing, a star as a round or a shining thing. Could be figuratively a prince or a stargazer. So like first person active, something like that. And it is the word day, lesser, light, rule, stars, kokaub. See, right there. There it is. In that very verse.
Wow.
So it's not I made the stars also. And I could show you the word create there. But it's not I made the stars also. That's wrong. It's I repurposed piles of stars. That would be right.
And nothing about ruling or to rule the divisions of the day and the night.
We could go over the whole thing, but I already have.
I know you have, yeah.
in the Coherent Bible series, it's all
just
there.
So juicy. And now you're doing another great review of Revelation with MacTheHuman. I want everybody to check that out, please. Whoever hasn't, if somebody's on this watching this that hasn't seen that for some reason, check it out. It's so good. Yeah. Did you see the verse I posted real quick? It's up there. It's John 9:14. King James has it as, and it was the Sabbath day when Jesus made the clay and opened his eyes.
Yes, of course.
It's what I landed on when I was like looking for relevant discussion points about the Sabbath. I think that's beautiful and poetic and doesn't need.
When you look at it that way, it doesn't need a whole lot of apologetic or exegesis. It just doesn't need it.
It doesn't, right? It's beautiful. It's right there. And it was the Sabbath day when Jesus made the clay and opened his eyes.
Yep.
It's when.
And how did he make clay? Do you recall? Do you need to look it up?
Well, this is the particulate matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
The very fine particulate matter that Adam was created from.
And he had one more ingredient to make clay. He spit.
Spit. That's right. That was the verse before that.
Right. He spit and mixed it with the dust of the earth and made clay.
And then made man receive
applied the
sight.
clay to the man's blind eyes on the Sabbath. Yeah, it's all right there.
And he received sight. Yes.
Of course he did. Because Jesus is big on the logic. And he just spit the logic.
Right.
Which is very persuasive, especially when heaven's parked in the sky.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of a shoo-in, really. The reason Jesus is so effective is because the situation at hand, the state of affairs, wouldn't be effective any other time. And why do you think we still have atheists? It's not effective.
Right.
Just as a story and the way the Christians tell it, it's not effective, and it wouldn't be, and it never would be.
Right.
Right.
At least I hope it's right. I hope it's effective.
You know, I've spent a lot of time thinking about that, actually. I don't see how it could be ineffectual in that situation. I just really can't see it. And then when you crunch the numbers, one risks hell out of 264,031 people. So really, I mean, okay, one is too many to lose. But I got to say that's a really good ratio. Over 264,000 to 1 ratio.
Yeah.
That's success. If you got those grades in school, well, your next semester would be funded by the college. No doubt about it.
Sure.
So is it perfect? Well, no, it's not perfect, but I do believe that there's a refusal in morality by the angelic to defeat personal choice or free won't. They can present all the options. They can make argumentation. They can send someone who is still like you, who hasn't been fully evolved yet, and 12 teachers to go, and 144,000 to protect them and agree with them. And they can send all that to you, and you could still disagree. That is your choice. And that's following, the 7 announcing miracles, the arrival of heaven, meeting an angel yourself.
Right. That's the full context of everything happening.
Heaven in the sky. You saw Satan and his kind get shot down. With all that.
With all of that,
and Leviathan, and you were suffering for 5 months with the sting of some kind of metallic flying freaky thing, some kind of drone stung you.
Right.
And after all that, you still won't buy that this is the real deal. Well, you're a special kind of weird. Very specific kind of weird.
It's hard to imagine that the number will be as big as it says it will be when you put it that way.
I never did figure out, and maybe there's a mathematician in the, well, actually we have Titan, who is somewhat a mathematician, I believe.
Yeah.
If there was a failure rating of 1, which it's not a failure, it's a chance of a failure. It doesn't mention the failure rating, those that actually go to hell. But let's assume that the biggest number possible went to hell.
Right.
And let's say that 31,500 went to hell. That's 31,500 out of, if it happened today, roughly 8 billion people. Is 31.5 thousand too many for my liking? Yes.
Of course.
But here's a big compliment maybe you never thought of. Satan getting less than 31.5 thousand out of 8 billion still makes the effort. How valuable are you? How valuable is each one of us? Hard to say. Because they lose their spacecraft. They are locked by Michael into the pit of hell. When the crust melts and collapses around them and rocks fall on their heads, they are dead, dead, dead. And not in a comfortable way do they die. And they still all do all of that, probably losing more demons than they gain human spirits. How valuable are you? You are more valuable than a spiritless demon, a fresh demon. You are more valuable than that. Maybe 10 times or 100 times more valuable than that, it looks like to me. More valuable than his own kind. He's willing to sacrifice his own kind to get any one of you.
Right.
Because then he comes and he fights Michael, and he loses. And he loses every time, and he knows he's going to lose.
He knows it. Right.
It's not new to him. He's done this before. So much so that the ascended Jesus in the book of Revelation, speaking of Satan, calls him that old devil.
Right.
Oh, whoa. How old? Those in heaven refer to him as old? What the hell does that mean? Apparently, eternal beings call him old. Yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, if they didn't always realize they were eternal.
Yeah, then maybe.
Yeah. Like he's old to me, no matter what kind of state of completion I'm in, you know?
Right,
I'm
because we're new.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's an old guy.
Yeah.
But still, yeah. I mean, he could be like first generation, really. He could be.
Oh, you'll forgive me. I would say that Satan is the story of Pharaoh. That he pre-exists Adam. In fact, he made Adam, which is why he named him Adam, because he was different from him. That is, his heart was hardened to God. Doesn't experience emotions. Can't have that connection. Can't understand it. Can't be Adam. Doesn't understand Adam either.
But he made him?
Yes. Well, the number two fusion, I think, is no coincidence. Okay, monkeys are pretty damn good slaves. You can train them to do a lot, but here's what you can't teach a monkey. You can't teach a monkey forward-thinking memory. You can't get it to plan. It won't. You need something better than a monkey. And there were how many different proto-humans? Those look like failed attempts. What we call cavemen or proto-man.
Sure.
It's not a monkey. It's not a chimpanzee.
Right.
It's similar to us.
They're human. Yeah. They're hominids.
It's some kind of hominid.
Yeah.
But I think that was not a perfect slave yet. And then they were still trying to make the perfect slave, which is why you had a batch of all males and all of them were killed off because they wouldn't be perfect slaves. By the time they were 3 years old, the slave keepers could tell they were too damn smart to keep as slaves. And then one of the moms did something really stupid. Let's face it. Putting your kid in a wicker basket, lining it with tar, sending the kid down the river is stupid. That makes it lunch for something.
Right.
They're defenseless. Best case scenario, nothing eats it. It starves to death instead. Right?
Right.
But a princess, not having asked permission, a princess, a daughter of the Pharaoh, picks it up out of the river, which means it's at their home, the Pharaoh home. That's where this happens. Of course, you would never put a slave in charge of all of taxation for an entire civilization. No slave would ever be given that honor. That would have to be one highly unusual, very trustworthy slave. How weird is that?
Right.
Why would you trust a slave like that? Why would you put a slave? That's like asking for a revolt, putting a slave in charge.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say Pharaoh was relatively impressed by Moses, wouldn't you?
For sure.
Peace and respect, Marty.
Hey, Marty.
But I don't think the Pharaoh was a fool either. I think the Pharaoh was very intelligent, could tell this thing had value, had a lot of potential. Unfortunately, he kind of underestimated how much potential it has. Of course, it's hard to understand something that has emotions if you don't. That would be nearly impossible. You wouldn't be able to estimate that thing. So it was valuable, but one day it looked at the slave class and it looked at the master class and it went, wait a minute, I look like the slaves. What the hell is this? And there is one line in the Bible that says we have something of Satan in us. And I think that's the difference between modern man and all the previous models. The Elohim took of themselves and put into man. That's what I think happened. It doesn't directly says it, but it does implicitly say it.
I see.
And isn't it true you have this ability to become on demand, unemotional if you're frustrated or angry enough? To turn off your empathy, to turn off your love for your fellow man and become a monster? And don't we all have that?
I don't know about a monster, but it's called disassociating, and I unfortunately am a bit too familiar with that mental state. It's not pleasant, that's for sure.
Right.
And
it's definitely something we intrinsically have this ability to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like
unfortunately, some people are born where it's permanently off, and we call them psychopaths or sociopaths, where it is just permanently off. They have no such thing.
Right.
Sometimes induced by trauma, sometimes they're just born without it. They just
Right.
don't have the empathy.
Wow.
But all of us can at times lack empathy for others.
Right.
That's completely normal.
This is the piece that is Satan.
I believe so. The emotionless part.
And does this get burned out, or what? Does this get purged? What happens?
What do you mean?
Does it get redeemed? You know, does it?
You know the story of Lucifer, don't you?
I mean, there's like a couple of verses in the Bible, and then there's a whole like extra biblical mythos about Lucifer, and I know all of
let's
it.
Just talk about what we know about just the text, just from the text.
Not that much.
Okay, he was he was a high angel under God.
Sure.
He had apparently an ability to choose.
Right.
He chose poorly, followed a path that no one had ever chosen before and nobody since. Tried to become as God.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Which there's two kinds of God. One we intrinsically disagree with. That's authoritarianism. There's some singular person who is the most violent, crazy, powerful, whatever,
right,
has the most machine guns. He's in charge. We don't like that. And then there's the overarching set of ideals that a society can agree upon, and that we just keep remaking those, trying to make one that's perfect. And that's the societal experiment right there.
Sure.
So there's the kind of God we disagree with, and there's the kind of God we naturally employ and do agree with. And everyone agrees with the natural God. And no one agrees with the imposed God. Nobody. And if you think that you do, you've just lied to yourself. You don't agree. You've just complied.
You've acquiesced, right?
You've acquiesced. Right. That's a great word. You've acquiesced to your church and your belief systems.
Right.
And what they've told you is necessary of your belief systems, and you bought it. Right. But you don't agree.
Right.
None of us agree with dictatorship. That's not okay. Yeah.
That's an important distinction.
Yeah. So we all naturally agree with the Yahweh, and none of us naturally agree with Putin. That's just not okay.
Right.
Right. If you're on Putin's payroll, that could be a different topic.
Right.
You might say you agree.
Sorry. Right. Topical. I like that.
You don't really agree.
Right.
Yeah, we don't agree with Satan, but Satan is a real God in that way. Although a dictator that does not expire ever. So a permanent dictator.
Right.
To them, that is God. And since they're emotionless, well, might does make right.
Right.
That's what makes you the most powerful, is you have the most power. That's it. It's simple. It's not about who's most righteous. That has nothing to do with it. There is no such thing as righteous when there is no right. There's only things that work in reality and don't. There's no emotional states involved in this. In fact, if you look at the word evil from within the Bible, it means that which is bad for us. It's speciesism. It is not objectively evil. There's no such thing. It's special evil.
Sure.
In fact, it's that which hurts a human.
Right.
But that makes sense from that perspective. I mean, an emotionless creature, no matter how evolved and powerful, is not actually evil. It's just, to us, it's evil. And they're just very, very practical.
They're pragmatic. Yeah. They're
extremely pragmatic.
They're objective.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So is that evil to us? Yes, we're emotional beings. Is that actual evil? Well, there is no evil.
Right. Is there a sense where all of it is, from God? Is there a sense?
Everything here, everything that matters to us, everything of his children,
I mean,
is of God.
Even this Satan.
I don't understand what you mean. Unless
God,
you're trying to say, could Yahweh have created Satan? Is that what you mean?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. It's not Yahweh even in the correct time frame. It's Elohim. And then Elohim is benign so far as morality is concerned.
Right.
I think that says it all. There are Elohim, powerful beings that are out there somewhere, not on this planet. They have differences of opinions.
Yeah.
One group of them is willing to go to a lot of effort to make this situation for us. One of them is only willing to come and take advantage of the situation. And they're the only two groups in the story. Although other groups are mentioned by necessity, they're not named. Here's another syllogism. There can be no liar in heaven. Heaven is the promised land. When we take the promised land, there will be those there who do not call our Father God. But they can't be lying. But they're welcome in his house. Well, that's not Satan's kind, and it's not our kind. It can't be. So what is that?
See.
Well, now we're opening lockers that belong to the MIB.
Right. Right.
That's what we're doing there. By the way, you're not to marry them. Don't care how pretty they are. Give your daughters to marriage. Sorry, Captain Kirk. No green woman sex. Sorry. Don't care how hot she is. And there's some possibilities in there. Someone said to me they could be seeking asylum. I said yes. They could be attaches. They could be political representatives of other societies that are not our heaven. Welcome in his house, but not his child. Okay.
Wow.
Well, that just, I mean, it doesn't speak as to what kinds or how many.
Right.
But it says existent alien in heaven. It says it. So as we close this up, there's a banner across the bottom of this screen. It reads, "Check out my friend David, an interesting liar." And he is. He's a fictional writer. He just did a book called Lemons, the cover of which you're looking at in the upper right-hand corner of this screen. And it is available for sale via physical or ebooks, Kindle and stuff like that. And I'm supposing not too much money. if you wanted to go and read like the preface and see if it sounds interesting. He's a brilliant, weird dude. You might love it. At https://www.ghostofamerica.net. Ghostofamerica.net. Check him out and see what you think.
Sounds awesome. I'm definitely going to check that out.
Appreciate that. Okay, so we covered the entire Bible tonight.
Yep. I guess we're done.
Wow.
Always a pleasure, Richard.
You as well, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we can get together again next Sunday, or at least I can if you can. So I hope
that would
to
be
see
lovely.
you. And in the meantime, be well, and thanks for all of the new ideas to chew on. Every time I think that I've kind of explored everything that you've got to say, there's something new that comes out. So this has been
It was like that for me for quite some time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well.
Before we close,
Yeah.
peace and respect, JG, new arrival, end of the show. Great timing. You can say you were here, but you don't have to watch it. So feel free to decline.
Okay.
The inquiry. Always.
Sure.
Feel free to decline. Okay. If you're uncomfortable in any way and any time I say anything. Prayer. Have you found time? Have you found the most fundamental thing, that last thing before peace is found? Have you had any forward momentum at all in your practice of meditation, that things do eventually get calm if you just wait long enough? Or is it just staying a raging river for you, bro?
I'm in a very tender place with all of that. I'm experiencing very intense and deep emotional states when I pray, and it's been difficult sometimes, and I'm not sure what to make of it. I think overall, I've in the last 4 to 5 weeks, I've achieved an ability to center myself during tumultuous times in my day by remembering that God is present, that by connecting in some kind of primitive way, I think, to that source and to that idea and that being. And I'm clumsy describing it. I'm clumsy experiencing it, and it's wonderful. And I'm not sure really what else to say about it.
Okay.
I'm overwhelmed describing it now. I don't know if that's coming over the stream or not, but I've got chills and I'm I'm tearing up and everything. It's
good for you.
I've been having an experience. It hasn't just been a futile effort of watching a tumultuous stream. Not at all.
Glad to hear that.
But at the same time, it's also been still confusing and overwhelming in many ways. So
I gave my example of the blindfolded soup taster.
Yeah.
But that's not everyone. That's me. And you have to find your own way to process these things that work for your mind. And
right.
The only thing that I could say that is probably universal about the experience of beginning to experience those things. Man, there was a bunch of times I just burst out laughing at myself from my past and cried over the horrible, sad things that I'd done.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time laughing and a lot of time crying, sometimes simultaneously.
Yeah, I can totally get that. Absolutely.
You didn't have to bother to type brother Big Zebra. Please just rest and rest well. Peace to you.
Absolutely. And thanks, Jay, G. Thanks, Jay. I will keep praying. I appreciate that encouragement. I'm far from experiencing it as a futile effort. So, and thank you for the question too, Richard. It was
have confidence that eventually it does become sorted out. I mean, we are talking about probably the most complex experience a human being can have.
Right.
I have compared it to holding beautiful women, to seeing infants born, to jumping out of airplanes and helicopters, and had to say none of those experiences equaled my experience in meditation. They were all more than overshadowed, dwarfed in intensity and impactfulness.
Yes.
So it's bigger than that. It's so much bigger than anything I knew before. One of the reasons I know I'm not faking it, because I thought I'd already experienced the ultimate things in human experience.
Right.
Everything except for murdering a human. That would be another ultimate, you know.
Right.
But I owe the U.S. government $1.3 million right now.
Oh my!
I stole that much. Okay. If they were aware of it, could show it, could prove it. If I hadn't gotten away with it, I'd be in Leavenworth for life. That's a fact. I have had absolutely gorgeous women in my bed. You know, I watched 2 grandchildren born, although I never had any children. I watched 2 grandchildren born. I was there in the room, in the delivery room. I thought I was going to die because of a dysfunction during a parachute during one of my first 5 jumps in airborne school. There's a thrill for you. None of it near as thrilling. None of it.
Right.
Not even close.
Right on.
So enjoy your adventure.
Yeah. You too. Thank you. We'll see you next week.
Next week. Thanks for the show, Mac. Thanks for the show, Steve. If you happen to watch the ending later.
Thanks everybody in the chat too. Purple, Crypta, Jay, everybody. It's awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Till next time, guys, I want you all to know I truly do look forward to the day. In fact, I get a little choked up about it. Every time I say it, I have trouble saying it. I truly look forward to the day that we're all great friends. Peace.